Welcome to Buckets. Coming to you from the Tommy John home studios. My name's Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. I'm joined by Bryan Fonseca. You can catch him at Bryan Fonseca NY on Twitter and in the Action Network app. On tonight's show, we're going to talk Jimmy Butler and his continuing, ongoing, never-ending parade of nonsense as he continues to seek a way to gracefully exit Miami. And we'll talk about what's actually going on with the Heat and Jimmy Butler and what exactly is going on. I'll give you the lowdown on what I think is happening with the Heat and Jimmy Butler on this episode. We'll also give you best bets for Friday in the association. We got a really good slate of games. The Celtics play the Rockets on a back-to-back when that game should not be on a back-to-back. The Thunder play the Knicks with the Thunder on a back-to-back. The Thunder should not be on a back-to-back. Are you catching my drift here? Are you getting what I'm putting down? We'll talk about Jimmy Butler. We'll do all that. A reminder, download the Action Network app. Best way for you to track your picks. You get up-to-second information for the bets and money are coming in on. If you're a longtime listener, Brandon Anderson, his stuff posts in there. If you get a pro subscription, you get that stuff instantly when he posts it. If you don't have a pro subscription, there's a little bit of a delay because we want folks to sign up for pro. So it's you sign up for pro, you can still get them. You can still get them, but you're not going to. And by the time that you get them, Brandon might move the lines because there are people that bet lots of money based off of what Brandon does. And if you don't believe me, go look at his ROI in the app. It's absolutely incredible. But Fonseca having a good year as well. That's been tracked on the Discord by the guy Sean that hangs out in our Discord, which you can join. Just look on Discord for the Action Network Discord. Lots of cool stuff in there. I like the folks hanging out in there. Very chill. It's a very good betting conversation. So you should go check that out. Also, make sure to check out our YouTube page at youtube.com/the Action Network. So make sure to go ahead and check that out. Fonseca, in the latest update, you have 198 bets and you have a 0.0% ROI. You have broken completely even up to this point in the season. Are you excited?
I was up 5% a few days ago, and I got a couple bad beats, bad ones. Especially with PJ Washington getting hurt when I took his over. Somebody else got hurt when I took their over. Andrew Nembhard, just for whatever reason, decided to shoot 4 for 14 when I finally took his over. But we're going to go back up once that's updated because we've had a couple better days, and it looks like Austin Reeves is going to send me back into positivity with an RA over, hopefully.
I was at plus 3.75, which I was completely happy with. And then it's I'm just slowly slipping into quicksand as injuries and more nonsense unravel. I don't know how the fuck Celtics Wolves went over. I'm so annoyed. Had the under, that was one of my favorite bets. I was Celtics are dynamite to the under on the road. Their defense travels. And then those two teams just decide, let's run up and down the court and score on each other.
Yeah.
So mad.
Yeah.
So I'm yelling about this on basically every time. Anything that I have a camera and microphone on, I'm yelling about this. Except for NBA Bet Stream, because that would not be great for the NBA. Celtics play the Thunder on Sunday at 1:30 in the afternoon. It's 3:30 Eastern on a Sunday in the middle of football.
Week 18 football.
See, I don't even care about the Week 18. I'm kind of it's not people are still going to watch football, and even, they're not going to more watch it because of all these random games. But just this is Celtics Thunder. You knew when you made the schedule the Thunder were favored to win the Western Conference, and you knew the Celtics were the defending champion who had won 60 plus games. This is not sometimes I try and be nice to the league because I'm well, you couldn't have known that this team, last year, I was you couldn't have known OKC would have been this good. How are you supposed to know? And then on top of it, the All-Star returns are out, and Shea's top of the Western Conference guards list. Shea's the number one guard. So apparently people know who the fuck he is. You just don't want to put him on TV. I'm so mad at this. It's on League Pass. They didn't even put this motherfucker on NBA TV.
Wow. I didn't realize that. I knew it was at 3. Look, that's not great. But the Week 18 piece of it matters too because there are games where people are going to sit. Your Chiefs aren't going to play nobody.
Sure.
But there are going to be teams Broncos fans are going to be heavily invested in that game, for example. They're going to be teams just jockeying for position, seeding, and now you're going to be up against that.
I don't think it matters. If it was last week, I'd be pissed off if it was Sunday. If it was 2 weeks ago, I'd be pissed off. No. Put this game on Wednesday. Just put it on Wednesday. Like, have it this be an ESPN Wednesday game, or save it until you're getting the Saturday games. Because you know what I'm going to get here in 2 months when they do the NBA Saturday games on ABC? I'm going to get Lakers versus Warriors between two teams trying to headbutt their way out of a grave. Just so annoyed. All right. Speaking of annoyed.
Professional
Miami
segue.
Heat got their doors blown off versus Indiana. Now, this is the second night of a back-to-back for the Pacers. Or for the Heat. And so, like, okay, this stuff happens. The Heat had, gotten, I guess, a win versus the New Orleans Pelicans the other night. They played, like, a little bit better. Things had kind of been, like, okay, despite this ongoing Jimmy weirdness. They benched Jimmy late in the game, and Spo said, quote, just trying to go with the group that gave us the most. He did it again tonight, trying to ride the bench unit back when, like, actually it got to, like, 13, and he wouldn't put the starters back in. And I was like, you could actually win this game, Spo. Like, you can't do it trying to ride your bench into oblivion. But, like, the Heat had won 4 of 5 before this game. In this game versus the Indiana Pacers, which I did on NBA BetStream, I tell you that despite I tell you that to promote it, despite the fact that I had Heat -2, did not work out great. In that game, Jimmy Butler takes 6 shots, 3 of 6 from the field, 9 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a -27 in 26 minutes.
That's a Jimmy Butler stat line from, like, 2013. Maybe.
Like,
maybe that's too recent.
It was not quiet quitting. It was more like fairly audible quitting. Not loud quitting, but, like, enough that you would have heard something and, like, wait, did you say he quit? And then Jimmy just doesn't say anything, but you're like, wait, I think he said he quit.
He said things. He said things after the game.
So here's what he said after the game. He said via the immortal Ira Winderman.
Yes.
Who's been covering the Heat for forever.
37 years, according to his Twitter bio.
What do I want to see happen? I want to see me get my joy back from playing basketball. A reporter very wisely, I think it was Tim Reynolds from the AP, followed up and was asked, can you get your joy back with this team? And he said, probably not.
The video actually makes it more, like, you feel it more when you watch it.
Yeah. You can catch it. Worldwide Wob's got it on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. As do many other people at this point.
So, I'll give you my spiel, and then we'll hear from you, the Heat sympathizer.
Probably more of a Jimmy sympathizer, honestly.
He talks about joy.
Sure.
He talks about this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
He agreed. So last year, I'll say this. Last year, Miami let it be known that there was not an extension forthcoming. They were not going to do it that year. Mm-hmm. Like, maybe they would have happened. Like, things could have changed in the summer. They could have had negotiation and figured something out. It's possible. But Miami made that very clear. If at that point Jimmy Butler he should have let them know, like, hey, I'm not going to want to be here unless I get an extension. They go into the summer and they have these conversations and they walk out of it with, oh, it's fine. No, we're just going to let bygones be bygones. This reminds me so much of, like, the breakup where both sides want to be, like, super mature and, like, no, like, we should be able to be friends after. Like, you're too important to me. Like, I want you in my life. I don't want to lose you.
Yeah.
But the problem is that one of them is fucking crazy. And so you can't just, like, you can't. Like, I've had that relationship happen.
Also, both of them are incredibly stubborn.
Yes.
Both sides, which is probably, like, more important than the crazy part.
And, like, when they came into the year with it being like, oh, no, yeah, he's going to play it out, I was like, yeah, we'll see. The other thing I'll just say here, nothing has changed in the basketball situation here. So Butler's playing this right because Butler's saying, I'm not happy. You know, he says he says he's happy in Miami, right? Which is why he was okay to stay. Is like, all right, maybe the basketball's not great, but I really like South Beach. Cool. Totally understandable. But you have to make that decision. Like, you have to make that decision. And the problem is that Jimmy didn't want to make that decision. He wanted it all. He wanted the contract. and the spot on and the team and the location. And this is like standard because this is the standard LeBron set, which is that you get everything. You get the contract, you get the location, and you get the team success. And Jimmy's facing that point in his career at 35 where he doesn't get to have those choices. He can have the location and the team, but he doesn't get the money. He can have the money and maybe the location, but not the team. He can have the team and the location, but not the money. Like, he can have any combo of those. Like, if he goes to Phoenix, he could have the good team in a good location, but he's not going to get paid that way. If he goes to Brooklyn, he gets paid, and he gets a location, but they're not going to be any good. He doesn't get all three.
Right.
But that's what this is about. Him talking about, like, I just want my joy back. Come on, man. You want a huge-ass contract to finish your career. And I respect that, and you deserve it. Like, you're still good enough when you play that people are terrified of you in a playoff setting. So I get it. I also understand every team that's like, yeah, I don't want to give that guy that money. And I especially understand them after watching this. If Miami can't figure this out with you, every other franchise needs to be like, we have no chance. We have no chance of managing this ego. If Miami can't do it, no one can, Brian. I don't know how this ends, but it's not going to end well for Miami.
I think both sides need to be a part here. I understand this from both sides, by the way. Can I just say that part of it? Like, if you're Jimmy Butler, and then we'll get to the Heat portion of this, but if you're Jimmy Butler, you brought this franchise out of the Hassan Whiteside, Dion Waiters, dead. You got there, you chose them. They had no cap space. They figured out a way to make it work. Dragged them to 2 NBA finals. Dragged them to a 1 seed. Yes, he missed some games that year, but ultimately they don't do any of those things without. Not one. Punched above their weight, time in, time out, over a sustainable period where the first 4 years of Jimmy Butler being with the Heat, they had the most playoff victories in the NBA. Something that nobody saw coming. There were people saying, like, he's going to Miami to retire. They're not even going to make the playoffs that first year, when I liked them as I was one of the only people being like, hey, this team could actually make a run to at least the conference finals. Like, they're really good. Bam's going to be good. You kind of saw this manifesting the year before when he started starting games ahead of Hassan Whiteside. And it's like, oh, this guy can pass. This guy can defend basically everybody and all these different things. He gets there and he drags his franchise out of the mud. Like, Zach Lowe was talking about, they might have one of the worst futures. You know, their future looks bleak. They don't have draft capital. They don't have this. They don't have that. All of which was true at the time. Drag them out of it. And now he wants his money again. Because the last extension, they didn't fight him on that one. He gets the extension. Deserved. He wants another one. And now we get to the Heat perspective. And I'm like, hey, I get their side too. Because ultimately, he's 35. We've talked about post-Tom Thibodeau. We're years removed from that now. And there have been injuries. There still are injuries. He just had an illness that knocked him out for a while. He says that he was sort of down for the count for that. But regardless, like, he's missed a lot of time over the last few years. He's missed a lot of games. And it's also a style of basketball that he plays. It's very physical. So it's going to wear on you. He's 35 years old. He's been a pro for 13, 14 seasons. And he wants a max, and the Heat don't want to give him the max. And then you get to the whole part of him being difficult behind the scenes, reportedly, which has been out there in different ways. And
so, hey, I just want to say on that point,
yes,
that's not new. Jimmy is always a pain, and this is not like digging back up stuff. So I heard stuff going back to the 2022 conference finals. I started hearing like, yeah, no, he's a lot to deal with. And then in the finals in 2023, when I was down there, it was like it was not a secret of just like, yeah, no, he's a huge pain in the ass. Like, yeah, but look how good he is. We got to the finals. We made two finals. Like, we've made two finals with him. Yeah. So he's worth it. And you just put up with it. And like, that's the thing is, I honestly applaud Miami because they've had more pain tolerance and more structural discipline than all of these other franchises that failed with him. For them to have made two finals with Jimmy Butler is not about Jimmy Butler's not good enough. It's that they managed to not have the locker room implode or the organization implode from tensions with him. Even with the stuff on the sidelines with Spo and everything, like, huge ass credit to Spo for getting through this. Like, you want proof that Eric Spoelstra is the best coach of the NBA, it's that he managed Jimmy Butler's ego successfully for this long, because it is that hard. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and among other personal things that Spoelstra's had to deal with, that we're not going to elaborate on here, but that's out there. Like, there's a lot here for both. So I get him wanting his money because he feels like he's earned it. But I also get the Heat not wanting to extend him because from a basketball and also from a business standpoint in the era of the second apron, it doesn't make a ton of sense. And I think you're at the point where, okay, both sides need to split. But when we try to do this, I think last time we spoke about this on air, but where's the spot for Jimmy Butler?
Right.
And that's a whole other conversation that's like down. And it's like the other piece of this is, it's like, if you're Miami, even though we could argue about who holds the cards, but like, you are kind of screwed in some regard because of how this is going to appear. And ultimately, you're not going to get back a ton of value, even if you do make this trade, whatever it is. And then there are basketball questions I have about their build going forward that frankly aren't as interesting as the Jimmy Butler piece of this, which is the first domino to fall that we could probably tend to at a later date. But, I think there's high potential for everyone to just lose in this situation. Everyone involved.
If you're wondering about how to trade, or how to bet this. It is this simple. Wherever he gets traded, we're going to tell, we'll do the episode and we'll talk about, I'll have Bryan on and we'll talk about all the dynamics and everything else. Wherever he gets traded, bet the team that you like most that is not that team in their division. So if he gets traded to the Golden State Warriors, you should bet on the Los Angeles Lakers, the Los Angeles Clippers, the Golden State Warriors, or the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, not the Warriors. The Lakers, the Clippers, the Suns. Not the Kings. Don't bet the Kings. If he gets traded to Sacramento, right? Same. You can bet the Warriors. If he gets traded to Phoenix, same deal, right? You're going to want to look for the Lakers, the Clippers, the Warriors. If he gets traded to Brooklyn, there's no real change. I know that sounds perplexing. I understand that when I say this, everybody's like, what do you mean if he gets traded? Why would he get traded to Brooklyn? I am just telling you that there is a feeling around the league that there is mutual interest between the Brooklyn Nets and Jimmy Butler. That Jimmy's probably like, I would really like to compete for a title at the end. And the Nets are like, we could do that because we just got a lot of money and we'll go get you another star and then we'll have you and another star and we'll win money. And then I think at that point, Sean Marks is probably just going to just open the biggest bottle of bourbon and just start drinking because that would be a Joe Tsai move.
Also, Big Face Coffee in New York City.
Big Face Coffee, right?
Probably do well.
So that's the thing, right? Location and money, but you don't necessarily get the team. Now, if the Nets are like, hey, we're gonna go get this guy in free agency, then all right, I don't know who that's gonna be because free agency doesn't really exist anymore. But that's theoretically a thing. I'm just telling you, if Jimmy Butler winds up in Brooklyn, I'm not gonna be surprised. I'm not saying that's what's gonna happen. I have no idea what's gonna happen with Jimmy Butler. I have no idea where he's getting traded.
No idea either.
But I can tell you where it's not gonna be. And now I can be wrong. I feel confident in the probability that it will not be Houston.
Yeah. Okay.
Dallas, it's almost impossible because of their apron status.
Yeah, they can't really do it.
They just can't make it work. There's no real way to do it. Now, I'm always kind of you can probably figure out something with these kind of things, but I'm just not sure that I don't know that there's enough there for them to have interest in this. And I don't think it makes a lot of sense. I also think Kyrie Irving and Jimmy Butler on the same team is begging to have things go. Kyrie's been great there. He's been quiet, and because he the Dallas media doesn't ask him the stuff that Brooklyn does. They don't ask him
for that matter.
They don't ask him about his Instagram. Dallas is just hey, cool game, Kyrie, and Kyrie's yeah, cool game, and then that's the media. Unless Tim McMahon's there. So Bulls maybe, but I don't think that the Heat want their guys, and I don't think he wants to go back to Chicago. Him and Reinsdorf are not he's not gonna be happy. And not is Reinsdorf giving him the contract? Probably not. The Nuggets, I haven't been given any sort of indication that there's a lot there, but I know that they've called. Like they're like it's a possibility.
How do you think Nikola Jokic would feel about that?
He'd probably like him.
I think he would too. I think from a basketball standpoint, there's a world where that could work, but like again, from the Heat, I mean, you're probably going to lose anyway.
Here's the thing: Nikola only hates dumb players, and I don't mean like there's a lot of guys that are really smart human beings who are dumb players, and Nikola. That's really the only thing is like Nikola just absolutely hates guys that play dumb basketball, because with European style and then Serbian style and how Jokic thinks of the game, like there is a right way to play and there's a wrong way to play. It's what I keep saying is when everyone's like, Jokic is so frustrated that his team sucks. And I'm like, Jokic does not care about how good these guys are. He cares that the players he has don't play the right way. That's what pisses him off. Jimmy Butler plays the right way. Russell Westbrook plays the right way. He loves Russ. Loves it. He's having a ball playing with Russ.
Russ has been better as of late also. Yeah.
He's been good.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to hold, but it's been good. Spurs, no. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Wolves, probably not. I think my understanding of their front office is that that's a no. I kind of like the idea of a Julius Randle, Jimmy Butler trade for a number of reasons, but probably not.
Ooh, that stinks.
I don't know, man. Julius is like the primary initiator with Bam, right?
I like Jimmy and Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
I'll say that. There's a team that I want you to get to.
Memphis, I think, is actually probably a maybe.
That's the one. Memphis is the one we should talk about.
Memphis is probably the maybe. He fits with their cultural identity of just being like, we don't care. We're coming at your throat. So that makes a lot of sense.
He fits what Memphis basketball wants to be. And they could also make it work in terms of like contracts. Like it's not easy, but I mean, there's been reported interest. This is random, but there's been reported interest for the Heat and John Conchar. I don't know where that came from, but that's been out there. They have the contracts to sort of get there. Like you need Marcus Smart. That's the thing. You need Marcus Smart, especially if you're not doing Ja, you're not doing Jaren Jackson Jr. And I don't think Memphis is doing Desmond Bane. They shouldn't. Miami should want Desmond Bane, but like I don't know what leg you have to stand on here. And Marcus Smart has to be there. Brandon Clark has to be there. And even that only gets you to like 32. So you're still going to need like Conchar. You may also need Luke Kennard. Like it kind of depends. That's a lot. But I could see Memphis getting frisky enough to do it.
So here's the follow-up question. Does it make sense to cash in for Jimmy and try and make a 1-year run when you deplete all that depth and have to replace it?
Marcus Smart has 1 year left on his deal.
Right.
Kennard's expiring. Conchar and Clark are the ones that are signed for 2 more seasons after this. Before you get to like potential young guys, if you want to throw that, like I don't know if you're you don't want to toss in a Gigi Jackson or a Vince Williams Jr. That's normally what it would take for a star like that. But
one of the big question here is just like, what's Miami going to hold out for? Because Heat Media is already starting to spin this as like, if you have to take bad money and get no first, the Heat is better off not playing him if he's uncooperative and get flexibility next summer and like all these types. They can't. I'll just say this: you can't. So
the union won't.
No,
the union will step in.
No, it's not even that. It's not even that because that's a team matter, and the union respects the teams.
Okay.
And this happens where it's like, hey, you don't want to play for us. We don't want you to play. We're not going to pay you. We get it. You don't have to play for us. You don't have to risk injury, right? And Jimmy can go see all the tennis he wants. But what you can't do, the minute that you send him home, you signal to the other guys the season's over. And the minute that you signal to the other guys that the season is over for team collective interests, everyone starts playing for themselves. Because now it's, I don't know what my future holds, so I better get mine, so at least I can get paid.
I mean, if you want to be funny about it, you could argue that that's already happening because if you look at the numbers, Tyler Hero's the only player who's made a jump since last season, and nobody else has. And is that because Tyler Hero's the only player who's improved, or because playing his style of basketball, hero-centric basketball, is not actually conducive to getting the best out of others?
Right. So, but just from a team chemistry standpoint, you got to move on. You just got to move on so you can turn the page. Doesn't matter what you get. Like, if you just get like a bunch of guys and you're like, all right, we're going forward, and it's Tyler and Bam and Jovic and whoever you get.
Khalil Ware, Jaquez.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the team. We're going forward. We're moving. Yeah. But if you send him home, now everybody's like in limbo. We haven't made the trade, so we don't know where we're going, but we're without this guy who's this good of a player. That's not tenable. So you got to move on. I will say I will continue to ask. I don't think that they will. I don't have like a lot of connections with Memphis. I used to, but I don't anymore. I just continue to be like, do they want Desmond Bane long term? Right? Because like Desmond Bane for Jimmy Butler is too much. Right? You would not trade Desmond Bane for Jimmy Butler.
Money also doesn't work straight up for what it's worth for people out there. So it's gonna be Desmond Bane plus. And
that's really tough, right? So I'm not sure exactly like what you would do, but I am just really curious about. For me, Memphis, I like the idea of them making a small trade, but I really don't. They're probably going to screw with it because this is what franchises do. I don't want them to mess with it. I'm like, you have so much optionality, man. If you need to run a small ball lineup, bench Edie, and then put Jaren at the 5 and run BC next to him. Oh, you're playing a super big lineup. Okay, put Edie in at the 5 and Jaren at the 4. Oh, you're facing 3 guards. No problem. You play Bane, Jaren. You play Bane, Ja, and Jalen Wells. No problem. Oh, you need to get like a bigger, more robust because it's a bunch of big wings. Play Marcus Smart alongside Bane and Ja. Like, they have so much optionality that they can put together right now, and I don't want them to mess with it, but they probably will.
But Ja Morant's hurt again. Now, it's not going to be season ending, but he did hurt his shoulder last year. He hurt it again. I think ultimately the team that does pull the trigger for Jimmy Butler, if there is one over the course of the next month, because the trade deadline is going to be a month from now, it's going to be someone who's in a desperate situation. I think it will be.
I don't think so.
I think it will be because...
tell me why.
Because if somebody gets hurt seriously between now and spring, but they're able to come back, before you lose too much ground, you may want to do that. I say that as somebody who's skeptical he even gets traded. You know, like to begin with, maybe it's a summer thing, not an in-season thing. But if you're doing it in season, how could you not be desperate given where the situation is right now?
These trades don't happen out of desperation; they happen out of opportunity.
I think they can both be the same thing.
Maybe. You know what's an interesting one? And it's one that everybody be like, why would you do this? You're playing so well.
Oh, God. Who are you going to say?
It's not OKC.
No, that's not the one that I thought of.
It's Cleveland.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going with a different type of reunion. I thought you were going to say the Knicks.
No.
With Tom Thibodeau.
Oh, God. Jesus, no. No.
That doesn't make sense there at all. Financially,
Tibbs, it's not Tibbs. It's Cat. That's the
right.
Can't do Cat.
Right. It'd be amazing theater though. Amazing. Why
Cavs is one I would look at, and I don't want him to do it, but Cavs are looking for another wing, right? And they're not going to trade Garland, and they're not going to trade Mobley, and they're not going to trade Allen, and they're not going to trade Donovan Mitchell. But if they could throw enough contracts together.
This one's weird because, like, okay, Max Strus and Karis LeVert would kind of have to be in the deal if it's not going to be any of the other guys.
Right.
You're still short a bunch of money. Like, Karis LeVert and Max Strus get you to 32. The irony is, though, Kenny Atkinson and Karis LeVert have been connected for 8-9 years. Yeah. And Max Strus and Jimmy, like, they were cool in Miami. Yeah. Real cool. Like, they had a handshake where they just flipped each other off. You know, like, that's the thing about it. And then on top of that, that gets you to 32. LeVert, who's expiring, and Max Strus, who has 3 years left, and Miami would probably welcome back Max Strus at this point. Like, why not?
If the Knicks didn't have those connections, I think they would have a team that would do it. It's going to be a team that's playing really well. That's why Houston makes a lot of sense, but Houston just isn't. Houston is looking for the long-term star. Like, they're a De'Aaron Fox team.
They're a De'Aaron Fox team. I agree.
Yeah. And, like, Spurs are constantly mentioned with them, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. I think Houston has better assets.
I agree. But I think those are the two teams for Fox, whereas, like, with Jimmy, it feels like if it's anybody... like if there's a market that has this, like Memphis would probably be the team I'm most interested in, but I'm still skeptical anyone's going to pull the trigger by February.
Yeah, well, 6th. I'll just say this: if Memphis trades for him, I need to look at the schedule. I'm either betting Mavericks or Houston for the division. I'm just saying, like wherever he goes, I'm betting, and that's not even about Jimmy. That's really not. It's just like
a regular season only thing.
Yeah. Is that we've done this enough that what's going to happen is the minute that trade happens, the market's going to spike.
Yeah.
And whatever team he's got traded to is going to get a huge bump because there's so much interest, and casual bettors do come in and are like, that team's going to be awesome. I'm going to bet them to win the whatever. Like, over on the win total, divisions, playoff seeds, make the playoffs, all these type of things. And we've just seen like what happens is, like, you're going to suck for 2 weeks while you're trying to figure out how to play with the guy.
Yeah.
Like, and 2 to 3 weeks later, you're going to get a much better price on that same team, and you can buy back in on him.
Also, he might not play for a couple of the first, like, 8-10 games. Right. Let me ask you one more thing before we move on. Okay. If you did have to pick one team you would want to see do it, like a team where they would look at the situation and be like, hey, I mean, he's a pain in the ass, but, man, he could still be really good in the playoffs for us.
Philadelphia. You asked the question.
Philly.
Yeah.
I mean, he and Joel Embiid, they're friendly.
Yeah.
And Paul George,
Nurse wouldn't have any problems with him. Nurse would treat him like a pro.
You know whose salary matches up with Jimmy Butler's, basically?
Whose?
Paul George.
Now it's like, I don't know what Miami, like, if you're Miami, like, do you want that contract? Probably not. Right? But I mean, look, I think for Pat Riley, that's like the tough part. I think that would be a real battle between Pat Riley and Andy Ellsberg. Of, like, Pat Riley being like, Paul's still good. We could still compete. Like, Paul and Bam, maybe this works here.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, Andy Ellsberg and Adam Simon being like, for the love of God, we have to get draft picks back. Like, we have to get draft picks.
Reportedly, they've been interested in Paul George before, by the way.
Yeah.
Now, previous versions of him, better versions of him, but there's that.
I hope Detroit doesn't do it. That's not the right team.
Yeah.
I hope Orlando doesn't do it. That's not the right team. Bucks would be really funny. I would laugh.
I know where you're going. He could do the Dame time thing again.
Yeah.
But, like, much different market.
He finally gets to play with Dame. Yeah, I'm going to be pretty insufferable for Miami fans about, like,
oh boy,
you need to trade Jimmy Butler. It's what's best for him. Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic is watching what you're doing. That's what they said about Portland. Scoot Henderson's watching what you're doing with Dame. Like, yeah, it's gonna be.
By the way, Portland should not do it.
Yeah. By the way, Portland should not do that trade. Toronto.
I might as well, like, the Lakers. Should we even bring them up?
I don't know what they have. I mean, the deal's like Rui, right? So it's like Rui.
Let's see.
I don't know. I don't think that they would ever give up Connect. If they gave up Connect, it'd be an auto yes for me.
After moving D'Angelo Russell, it's much tougher.
Yeah.
Rui 17. It's nowhere close.
Ironically,
Gabe Vincent, who Miami really liked, would be in that deal. But they're not, like, the Lakers aren't trading Austin Reeves.
Right.
Not in this deal.
Right.
At least, and they probably shouldn't do it at any deal at this point, or most deals at least.
Right.
Rui, Gabe, Jared Vanderbilt. and you're still like 10, 11 million short.
He makes a lot of money. Very hard. Very hard to get a deal done. We'll see how Miami handles it going forward. All right, let's do some best bets for the Thursday slate, Brian. What are your best bets for Friday? For Friday in the association, December 3rd.
A game that I'll be watching very closely, more than I should be. Hornets Pistons. I got two things I like. We're going Asar Thompson over 16.5 points, rebounds. Hopefully Jaden Ivey isn't out for too long, but that's part of it. And then we have Cade Cunningham. I'm going to sprinkle on a triple-double plus 1,100 out in the market right now.
I like that. All right, I am going to got a couple plays. I'm going back to the well with Celtics Rockets after they let me down. I'm going Celtics Rockets under.
I like that one too, actually.
221. They let me down so big, but
yeah,
I'll go there. Memphis plus 3.5 versus the Kings. I'm going to take the Oklahoma City Thunder minus 5.5 on the back-to-back versus the Knicks. And my favorite bet of the night.
Uh-oh.
The Washington Wizards money line plus 220 versus the New Orleans Pelicans. Let's bet Wiz.
I kind of like that one.
Look, Pelicans are technically worse. They have fewer wins.
I have the Wizards under for the season. So I should be like, I should want the Pelicans. But I don't hate this spot at all for the Wizards.
So yeah, let's do that one real quick, and then we'll get to the majesty of your Hornets Pistons play. So with I'm not going to spend a lot of time capping the Wizards, but I'll just say, like, look, I make this literally a pick'em. Like, I make this a pick'em. The Pelicans have lost an ungodly amount of games straight, and I get it. It's the Wizards. Nobody loses to the Wizards except the Bulls just lost to the Wizards, and the Bulls are better than the Pelicans. Now, like, the Nuggets and Hawks lost to the Wizards, and both those teams are better than the Pelicans. Both those teams are better than the Wizards, etc. But it's just that, as bad as the Wizards are, it's hard to be as bad as they've been every single game, every single night, all throughout the course of the season. Like, it's just really hard. And I'm not even saying that they're necessarily playing well, because they're not. But at home this season, the Pelicans are only 50% against the spread. Now, the Wizards are worse. They're 36% against the spread on the road. So this is definitely me kind of heat checking here. But when I look at this, I make this a pick. I'm going to have a play on overtime. I'm going to have a play on winning margin within 5 points. Like, this is two teams that are... Talk about this. These two teams are both terrible, but they are the exact same level of bad. If I take out... So part of the reason I've got this pick is because the Pelicans are getting docked for bad home court because they've been bad at home. But if I give them standard home court advantage, I only make this one. It's 6.5. Like, under what circumstance should this team be favored by 6.5 points? It's like, versus anybody. And the answer is like, versus Washington. And I get that. I genuinely think that that's too many points. Value is value. I'm not taking the points. I'm taking the money line. Washington Wizards plus 220.
It's worth noting, Jose Alvarado probable to return for this game.
I miss GTA.
Yeah, me too. Me too. New York guy, also fellow Puerto Rican. But other than that, I mean, Zion Williamson's still out. Brandon Ingram's still out, which obviously is a big part of this. Bilal Coulibaly is not expected to play due to illness, so I think that hurts a little bit. But I mean, these teams are on mostly even playing field at this point. And you know, the Wizards, like, I mean, they played the Knicks hard, like, into overtime not that long ago. Like, they're in the NBA, there's not that many easy nights, and there are none if you're at the level of the Wizards or the Pelicans. The Pelicans in particular in this case.
A key point. So fast breaks are easy points, right? This season, teams that give up more fast breaks than the opponent scores. There's a number of teams that are the absolute worst. The Pelicans are one of them. And when the Pelicans play a team that score a lot of fast break points, but the Pelicans give up even more of them. And the Pelicans this season against those teams are 11-20 against the spread. Yeah.
What a specific stat. I love it.
It is, but like this is why I'm trying to find who are the teams that the bad, like what are the circumstances that the bad teams do cover against, and which ones do they not? And this is one of those. The other one here is the Pelicans when they face a team that has an offensive rebound advantage. If they average more offensive rebounds than they do, they are 9-13 against the spread. So there's just like some good numbers here. If you want a larger sample, by the way, I got a bigger one on if you are a team that the Wizards in this game have an edge, both offensive and defensive, in 3-pointers made and points in the paint. So they take more threes than the Pelicans do. They allow fewer threes than the Pelicans do. They score more points in the paint than the Pelicans do, and they allow fewer points in the paint than the Pelicans do. Those teams this season are 27-19 ATS in those spots, 59%. So,
would you add Jordan Poole over 22.5 points, or is that too crazy?
I will not bet on Jordan Poole, sir.
Me neither.
I have standards.
Just wanted to see.
Okay. All right, let's go to Hornets and Pistons. Give me your cap on Asar.
Well, Jaden Ivey's out.
Yep.
And that's obviously a big part of this. I mean, Cade Cunningham, before we were talking about this, I wanted to take his PRA because, in part because Jaden Ivey's out, and in part because they're playing the Hornets, which still might be a good play. It's 43.5. It's a little higher than I would want it to be, but I also understand why it's there. And there are going to be people taking the over, and I may end up being one of those, but I'd rather get the triple double. But with Asar Thompson, you're losing Jaden Ivey. That's top 2 guy in usage behind Cade Cunningham on this team. Asar Thompson's 4th. The usage will go up. The scoring opportunities will go up. And when he gets minutes, like he is a very good rebounding wing. And this is why I'm using the points rebounds in this particular game. The Hornets have they started off promising, and then LaMelo Ball got hurt, and Brandon Miller's been hurt, and it's just a mess. Trey Mann is going to be out for longer now, and my over is probably going to be dead at this point. So I'm not bitter about it, but I don't feel great about it. But with Asar Thompson, the rebounds haven't been there as much this year because he hasn't gotten a lot of time. He's going to get extended run now with Jaden Ivey out, I feel like. And I think this is a great spot for him against the Hornets, who they'll miss some shots and they'll provide some rebounding opportunities. So Asar Thompson over 16.5 points rebounds. I may even be interested in the double-double sprinkle just because it'll be at such a ridiculously long number. But I like the PR more.
Because they'll play everybody up or down depending on how you scale it. Like They'll play small forwards at guard, and they'll play power forward and small forward. I would also probably suggest Ron Holland.
Yeah.
Maybe even like a Ron Holland 3-point prop would probably be something that I will maybe look at. He's not a good shooter, but he's gonna get opportunities. Ron does stuff. Ron's interesting because like he just does stuff. Mm-hmm. He doesn't like do anything well yet. He just does like a lot of different things on the court. He's got a lot of utility in that way. On the Hornets, you were just a year early. This is Gilles Gallant with the Pistons, where he was like, no, this is a year, and then I was like, nope, it's not. We took the Pistons under in 2024. That cashed was on him this year. Like you got to time these things right. And Lee's, if you look at some of the metrics in terms of location efficiency or like what they're expected to do, it's all very positive. Like the Hornets are putting in a framework and an underlying structure that's going to be successful. The Charlotte Hornets are going to be a better franchise over the next 3 years, I think. It's tough. Sometimes these things go sideways because culture is just bad. I really do think that this team can be good.
They just probably have the right coach also.
I think so.
I think
Charles is really good. I think that, again, all the underlying stuff is really good. And if some of their beat writers that I pay attention to, the vibe is still good despite the fact that they're terrible because they're moving in the right direction. They're losing games, but the process of how they lose is getting better. I just don't know. They need to trade a bunch of guys. Still.
Yeah.
Okay. Cade. You want to sprinkle the triple double?
Sprinkle it plus 1100. There's a plus 900 right now. Obviously, if you can get the 1100, it's not available in every state. That particular book, but there's an 1100 out there. I will also note Charlotte 16 and 16 ATS this year. So there's that. With Cade Cunningham, he's gonna, speaking of usage increase, he's gonna have a ton now. He's already had like some triple doubles this year. He's had some absurd statistical games, and the 43.5 number that I mentioned earlier in terms of PRA, he actually did get this over barely. But he got this over against Charlotte earlier this year, and this is with Jaden Ivey. So without him, you're just going to see more usage, more shots. I think the assists particularly might be an underrated thing here because he's going to see more pressure and he could pass out of double teams. And Charlotte is not the team with the highest defensive IQ. I don't think I'm not calling anyone dumb, but the Pistons, Cade Cunningham, his court vision, he'll be able to find guys for shots. You mentioned Ron Holland. Asar Thompson probably get some opportunities, and obviously like Tim Hardaway Jr. as well, and Malik Beasley. But when you look up and down the sort of roster, like who do you want the ball in their hands? You want Cade Cunningham every single possession if you could help it. So this is what it comes down to for me. And I think the triple double is an interesting look. It's probably something I'm going to look at more than once as long as Jaden Ivey's out, because on just pure usage alone, like he'll have these opportunities, especially with the points and assists.
So on normal home court advantage, I make this Pistons minus 6.5. When I adjust for home court, I make it pick 'em because that's how bad the Pistons. That's a little under a point. That's how bad the Pistons have been. But the Pistons' home schedule, they just got their teeth kicked in early in the season by Boston and Cleveland and like the Knicks. Like they played a bunch of really good teams at home, so that's why that's bad. And Charlotte's not that. So if I'm not going to bet it, because I don't know. I do like the spot for the Pistons in the game after Ivy, because there will be like an emotional. We got to pull together. We got to keep the team running for Jaden. By the way, conversation, it sucks for Jaden Ivey. I hate that injury for him. He was playing so well.
Yeah.
There is like a little bit of optimism that he might come back this season. I don't think he should. I think they should go ahead and give him the summer. But fractures are always better than tears, man. As bad as a tibia fracture is, and as much as that's traumatic, it sucks. It's still, man, it's so much better than a ligament tear. It's just the recovery time is so much better.
There have been players who've come back from this in like 2-3 months. Not to say that he should, don't rush, but I mean, we'll see if the Pistons are fighting for a play-in spot later in the year.
But I mean, I'll just, as much as it's more painful, and I don't want them to suffer any pain, but take the fracture for at least for playing purposes. Take the fracture 10 out of 10 times over the ligament stuff.
Agree.
Thunder minus 5.5. I make this 8.5, even adjusting for the back-to-back. So how did the Thunder do on back-to-backs? Since the start of last season, when the Thunder are at home on the second night of a back-to-back, they are 10-2 straight up, winning by 19 points per game. They are 8-4 against the spread, covering by 10 points per game.
By the way, they were losing by 8 in this game, and then were winning by 30. They could sit people. They just
decided.
Yeah.
They just, like, they were down. We were on BetStream, and we were watching it, and we're just like, man, Clippers taking it to them. Like, all right, I guess OKC's mortal. And OKC comes out in the third quarter, and it's a 27-10 run in 6 minutes. They had a 27-10 run in 6 minutes of the third. The Thunder just Thanos snapped them, and we're like, we're done here. I'm out. You should have gone for the head. I mean, unbelievable. Knicks not on a back-to-back, so this is a rest advantage spot. Knicks are 53% against the spread on the road. OKC is 67% ATS at home. Again, I make this 8.5, and I feel comfortable with that number, so I will lay the 5.5 with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Wait on this if you're listening to this. Go check an injury report just in case they screw me on this, and it's like Shea's gonna sit, or they just punt this game. I don't think they will. I think it's on ESPN. Is it? Let me check that, because that's important. If it's on ESPN, they will not rest guys, because that's a problem. It's on NBA TV, which is kind of like national television. So I don't know.
Kind of like national television.
It's kind of like national television.
I mean, it's a big game. I mean, look, the Knicks have been they've been awesome as of late, but if you look at the wins, and this is the sort of question, right? It's like Orlando depleted Orlando multiple times. Still no Paulo Banchero or Franz Wagner, and now Mo Wagner's out. So there's also multiple Washington games. There's the Pelicans, who we've already touched on as being very shorthanded. Like Minnesota is the best win of their recent wins, and they've won 9 straight to this point. And this Oklahoma City Thunder matchup is going to be their biggest game in a while, like in over a month.
Finally, I'm taking the Memphis Grizzlies plus 3.5 versus the Kings. I should probably stay away from this one. The question is just kind of like, all right, was that a dead cat bounce for the Kings the other night in the win, in the comeback win over Philly? Or are they going to kind of buckle down on this homestand after firing Mike Brown, all of the turmoil, all of the rumors? DeRozan made some big plays late in that game. Do they group together? And I get all that. And usually in that kind of situation, I would be like, I don't know what they're going to respond to, so I'm not going to bet it. However, look, the Kings are 28% against the spread at home this season. The Grizzlies are 63% on the road. If I do a 2.5 point reduction for Ja, which to me sounds appropriate, like he's not a 3, he hasn't been. I would give a 3.5 point reduction for Jaren Jackson Jr. right now. That's how good he's been for them this year. He's been phenomenal. Jaren's been so good for them. Ja hasn't been. Ja's been good, but like they're winning with every single lineup. They're winning in the bench minutes with Aldama and Kennard. They're winning the minutes with Edey. They're winning the minutes with Bane. They're winning the minutes all over the place. And they're so much deeper, and they're just like a much better team on both ends of the floor. This is a team that's flirting with being top 10, top 5 in both offense and defense, and this is despite all their injury issues. If I give the Kings normal home court, which I've got them as a negative right now because of how bad they've been at home, if I give them normal home court, I still, after the job reduction, after taking 2.5 points off, given the Kings a standardized home court, which they have not played to this season, I still make Memphis a 2.5 point road favorite. And look, my number could be wrong. It hasn't been. Of all the teams, I'm 93% on model on Memphis this season. Right? And you have to take my word for that, because that's my stuff. But I also am just like, I don't like the matchup. I don't like the situation. I don't like any of this. So I don't think Memphis should be a dog here. I think Memphis should still be at least a small favorite. I will grab the 3.5, and I will play the money. I will play an alt spread minus 2.5 on the Memphis Grizzlies.
2 points in your favor.
Yeah.
Memphis, second best team against the spread this season. Sacramento's the worst.
Yep.
Tied with Phoenix, but the worst.
I also lean towards the under in this game. It's 238. I make it 231. My problem is I'm still trying to adjust for Memphis's pace, which is like very erratic. Like sometimes they blow way past the total, and sometimes they're way under. It's very confusing trying to figure out what they are. But Memphis on the road is 69% to the over, so I'm not going to play that. I'm going to stay away. All right. Bryan likes a sprinkle on Cade Cunningham triple-double. He likes Asar Thompson points and assists. Yes?
Points, rebounds,
sorry.
Yes.
Points, rebounds on Asar Thompson. I like the Thunder minus 5.5. I like the Memphis Grizzlies plus 3.5. I like the Washington Wizards on the money line plus 220. God help us. Thanks to David Payne, our producer, for producing this episode. Bridie Rubino and Giver Gould for getting us up at youtube.com/The Action Network. Join us on the Discord at the Action Network Discord. You can track that down and join us in there. You can find me on Twitter at HP Basketball. Brian's at Bryan Fonseca MY. We'll be back on Monday with the Future Jays, where we'll be talking about lots of stuff with MVP. We got lots of stuff to talk about. It's going to be great. We'll react to the Celtics and Thunder game, which is being played somewhere, sometime on some channel that you won't be able to watch. So make sure to check that out. Download the Action Network app. We'll see you guys again next time. Till then, let's get buckets.